Welcome back to Tommy Tuesdays at 2. This week we're going to do something totally different, kind of impromptu. This morning when I came in this morning, I get to hang around a couple of incredible athletes that I'll let them introduce themselves to you. You know them well. But we were talking about the Olympics and watching the Olympics, and I said, is it different when you watch the Olympics than when the rest of us that have not competed watch the Olympics? And their answers were incredible. So first, I'll let them kind of talk about what it's like to watch the Olympics, having been in the race, and what it feels like to watch. Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Armstrong, and well, of course, I recently retired from the games, but you know, it's just in my blood. I've been to Olympic Games for the last 4 summer games, and it doesn't matter what sport it is, but watching the athletes compete, what I feel is just their nerves and what they're going through and what their preparation might have been. And sometimes one of the races that happened just the other day was the start of the Nordic ski race, and there's a big crash and there's a big pile up. Several of the skiers were down, and one of the ones who fell ended up winning the race. And it was a huge lesson, and in fact I was there with my 7-year-old, and I looked at him and I said, hey Lucas, what happens sometimes in life is you get knocked down really hard, but if you stay knocked down, you're never going to win. And to me, that was a really powerful moment as a mom. But I know what the athletes are going through. But I think another important thing that I might see it, that those of you who haven't experienced Olympic Games, how we see things a little differently, is that I realize how real these people are. They're just like myself. They're just like Tommy. They're like Holt. They're really just people on the streets. They're people who you competed against in high school or college, and they're just all normal people. It may look like Hollywood on the other side, but when you get down to it, they're truly people who just put their minds to something and went after a dream of theirs, and it's finally come true. So you just want the best for them.
Wow. I don't know how you're going to follow that up.
Yeah, well, let's also keep in mind that Kristen is a 4-time, decorated Olympic athlete. So I didn't go to the Olympics, but I was a member of the U.S. national ski team, the U.S. ski team for a number of years, competed World Cup. So I was kind of in that, obviously, kind of in the same.
Talk about your event.
So I was a freestyle mogul skier. So the men's moguls is on tonight. And that's the exact event I did. So you're skiing moguls, you have some jumps that you're doing, and you're judged on turns, speed, and air. But it's a pretty quick event. Each of these runs is like 23 to 25 seconds. So when I watch, especially a lot of the sports in the winter games, they're pretty short sports, except for some of the Nordic sports and decathlon sports, but they're fairly short. So when I watch the Olympics, I kind of, for most people, when you see the Olympics, you're watching this short 25-second clip of this person's life, but you don't necessarily have, you don't see all of the blood, sweat, and tears and sort of this hard work that's led up to this one little moment. And I think that's where when I watch the games, I almost feel like I get more nervous for the people I'm watching, because I'm like, man, when you're in the gate, you're sort of really trying to get into that mental zone and really trying to focus. But I'm watching it now, like, man, I know the pressure that's on these guys and gals, and I feel for them, and so it's really fun for me to watch, because I just like put myself in there.
Can I have each of you, because I've asked each of you individually, but just talk a little bit about what you would feel in that moment, just before the gate opens or just before the race starts, and what would you channel in that last moment? Because I think it's fascinating when I hear this.
For me, I can't stop channeling these images of my family and all the sacrifice that they had to support me along my journeys. But at the same time, I couldn't imagine standing on the podium listening to any other anthem than the U.S. national anthem. And so those are the things that run through my mind. And then once that buzzer goes off, which is the most nerve-wracking thing, is 5, 4, and it's like 3, 2, 1, beep. And you go and you have to take a deep breath, but then my mantra is, you have to live with this result. Tonight when you go to bed, you can't wake up and do it again unless you want to wait 4 years. And then again, 4 years is just still a chance that you might make the team.
Wow. Okay, last question. I know you both pretty well now in the business world, and I can't help, because I see parallels with mental toughness and training and discipline grit and just all of the things that you learned. And I look at, you in the business world now, and the way you go after life, not just business, but the way you approach your family and the way you live life. Can you just maybe talk a little bit about how that translates to real life and what we might learn from world-class athletes that might benefit us?
Well, it's kind of a funny question because Tommy is like one of my mentors. I look to you. No, I don't know. I think again, it's just, how well can you manage adversity and how well can you identify what's in your control and what's not, right? Everyone's kind of got a plan, or at least some general sense of a plan or goals, or they should, and if you don't, just start working on that. But you kind of have this like plan for how, a meeting is supposed to go, or how kind of you want to meet your objectives, and sometimes it goes as planned and sometimes it doesn't, but how quickly can you identify the alternative sort of solutions of what's in my control and how can I ultimately navigate to get to, to meet this objective when circumstances are changing. So it's really trying to be nimble and like kind of self-reliant, but I think it's really applicable.
It's great. Take it home.
I have to say that the foundation to success, whether you're an athlete or you're in business, is having a strong character. So, you can have a growth mindset, you can have a fixed mindset, and I know those are words and terminology that are used in the business world quite often these days. But it is true, because if you, like I said, if you get knocked down and your mind goes elsewhere, over to left field, then and you're not willing to adapt and you're fixated on that poor result, then you're not going to become better. The other piece that I find is missing in the business world as well as in the athletic world, and it's not natural for people to have this, is I like to call it mapping. And I love to navigate people's map, which is what is their plan? How are they going to get from point A to point B? And as you refer to, what's the blueprint? Yeah. And with that, I think it's really important that you just don't come up with 3 goals. You don't say, well, I want to become CEO one day of this company, or I want to become an administrator and I want to do X, Y, and Z. Just like an athlete, if an athlete comes to me and says, I want to make the Olympic team, I want to win the world championships, and I want to become national champion, I want to look at them and say, well, no, duh, that's why you're here, right? I try to get them to really push the envelope and go into that second tier of goal setting. So how are you going to make that world team? Oh, and by the way, once you figure that out, that qualifier, what's that process in getting there? And if you can't figure that out, which an overused cliche is, you don't know what you don't know. So in the athletic world and cycling, I'm here to, now my new role is just to help people learn how to actually set basic goals. But it's amazing to me in the business world how similar that is, and how people think what their goals are is, get an MBA. That's a great goal. We all have those goals. But at the end, how does that? What's that process look like? So it's the same. It's athletics and the business world, and succeeding in both of those arenas are very similar.
Can I add to that too?
We can.
It's just it's like, Chris, that's like very beautifully put. And the only thing I would add is that it's the easy way, as you make this this roadmap and this plan. The easy thing to do is to make excuses as to why failure is acceptable. And knowing you as well as I do, Tommy, it's like you're the most. When you're operating in athletics, it's totally results driven. It's a complete meritocracy. Nobody cares why you didn't perform, right? They just want to know, okay, who won who won, and that's it. It's like who was first, second, and third. It's not like, oh well, gosh, this person was having the best run of their life, and then they just tripped right at the finish line. Nobody remembers that. But I just think about you, Tommy, and you're such an incredibly results-driven person anyway. That as you look at tackling these issues like healthcare and education reform and all these things that are major obstacles that maybe predecessors have looked at it and people acknowledge, but nobody's actually been able to say, hey, this is, it's almost like there's excuses as to, oh, the insurance companies are too big, or there's all these blockades that people allow to let them get derailed. And I just, I think it's just, you already have that results driven.
Well, just to close this up, I love being around people that are driven. We call it kerosene in their veins, right? They wake up, they're ready to go, and that's why I love being around the two of you, is because you inspire me, and it always just feels good to be around people that think like that, right? Results driven. What's the data? Where are we going? How are we going to get there? and we're not going to let anything get in our way. And I love what you said too about being nimble, because I'm sure there's so many different times. You brought up in your first example, that race, you just don't know what's going to happen. So you've got to be able to be flexible enough and keep your eye on the end goal to make it happen. And I think that's why I just love being around you guys so much. I learn so much. Sometimes I come in and I just ask a simple question. Like this morning I asked you, it started off just not supposed to be some deep philosophical discussion, but I said, hey Kristen, what's it like when you watch the Olympics? And then I just sit there and I'm kind of blown away as you like teach me something. So that's why I wanted to share this. It's just really good. I think the impact of the ability to extract excellence in what you've done in your life and really change people's lives. It's a powerful thing. And I'm just blessed to be able to partake in that. So anyway, we thought we'd share that with you today. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2 or somewhere around Idaho this week, because we're going to be everywhere. See ya.